To start with, I'm going to go ahead and click a new part. As this opens up, just so you're aware, as you go from part to part to part, you have the choice of either creating a new part, saving your old one, which is a good idea if you want to keep all of the different variants, or you can delete it and start again. It is up to you. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the front plane and I am going to start a sketch. From the front plane, I'm going to start at the origin and I'm going to draw straight out, straight up, straight in, straight up again, over, have it help me line up with the origin, and then straight down to get any and to close the shape. Now I want to make sure that all of mine are either horizontal or vertical lines, because in this case all of them should be. So I'll have this that shows it's anchored at the origin and then horizontal and vertical lines all over. In this case, my dimensioning tells me that this is that should be 34 millimeters. This should be 34 millimeters. This was then 12, and this was then 12. That should give me a fully defined sketch, which is exactly what I want. I'm then going to exit my sketch. People sometimes say my dimensions and relations got deleted. That is not the case. They just disappeared. Since we're not actually editing the sketch, they will hide momentarily. What I want to do now is go over to Features, and with Sketch 1 highlighted, I want to say Extrude Boss Base. What will happen now is my view will shift, and it will show me that I can now add thickness to this. Now, I can, if I wanted to, try to pull this out and hit the exact right measurement, but that doesn't seem to be very accurate. Over here in the menu, I can set it to my distance of 22 millimeters because that's what it actually should be. You'll also notice that right under Direction 1 Blind is a little button with arrows, so I can also reverse the direction. Sometimes it will be very, very critical as to where that origin is. And if I reverse it, now I'm putting the origin on this front corner, which is for the most part of a lot of the things we do is going to be true. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and accept it, and it's going to turn gray. I'm now going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to hold Shift on the keyboard, Control on the keyboard, and use the wheel mouse button to move this over here, because I am going to use the snipping tool to cut a picture out of here. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, and I am going to go to Properties, and I'm going to click over to Summary. On the summary, you can see that I have created, last saved, who it was saved by, and what version. This is handy to know if anybody sends you a part. I'm using it to make sure that everybody is creating their own thing though. So we're going to put this over here so that I can make as small of a picture as possible. To snip this, I want to now go down to here and start to type in snipping tool. So SNI will usually get you the snipping tool. You'll then click New. Your screen will go kind of frosty white, but you'll have this ability to make a box. So what I'm going to do is kind of judge where the top of this is going to be, and I'm going to make sure I include the file tree, which I did, which is right here, the part itself, and then the information that I was talking about right here about date, last saved by, created by, that sort of stuff. I'm now going to go to Edit and go to Copy. Now, after going to Schoology and creating my new document by opening the file, I'm going to get this. What it says below is paste below the picture that shows your file tree, the part, and your summary for the one extrude method, which is the first thing we do in the video. I'm going to click there and hit paste, and that's going to put the image there. As you can see, I have a nicely sized image. I can see that I used one extrude to make it. I can see that I made the part correctly and that I've got the information here. I'm now going to go back to SolidWorks and show you how to make the other two. You should be able to rewind back to this part of the video if you need to know how to use the snipping tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my extrude and push delete. It's going to ask me, are you sure? And say yes. And then I have to delete my sketch 1. And it's going to ask me, are you sure? And I'm going to say yes. Here's my next method. I'm going to click on the top plane. Make sure you do this correctly. And as a little shortcut, you might have seen when I click the top plane, I get this shortcut menu right here. And the first one is sketch. So it's going to let me create a sketch. So now I'm using the top plane. I'm going to go to the sketch menu and I'm going to get the corner rectangle. I'm going to put one corner on the origin and drag this out. I'm going to use my Smart Dimension tool. I know that this one is 34 and this one is 22 because that's the depth of the item. You'll notice I'm keeping the origin at the front left corner of my object. This is what I need. So I'm now going to exit my sketch. With sketch 2 in my case, it might be sketch 1 for you highlighted. I'm going to hit Extrude Boss Base. It's going to rotate it, and you notice now I'm adding height. Okay, so again, I could grab this and try to hit 12 exactly, but instead, I'm going to go ahead and type in 12 as the distance and click OK. Now, I'm going to now click on this surface because my next sketch I want to make is on this surface specifically. And I can either go to sketch in this menu, or you'll notice when I clicked on this, starting a sketch. Now notice the difference between editing the sketch and starting a new sketch. Starting a new sketch is right here. So I'm going to click on that. You'll notice it does not pivot my view. If I push the space bar, I get this little view cube, and you see if I go to the top section, it even tells me in my preview that I'm going to see the top view. So I'm going to click that, go to my preview. I'm going to use the rectangle tool again. I'm going to start from the bottom corner and come up. Now, since 3 of my 4 lines overlap existing lines, most of those are already fully defined. The only one I really need to define is this one, which is 12 millimeters. And it should, again, if I did it right, it comes out this way, and I'm now fully defined. I'm going to exit this sketch, go to Features, Extrude Boss Base. Now, it doesn't rotate me back, so I'm going to click the space bar. It won't let me do that. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this real quick. So we're going to go ahead and click the space bar and go back to the one that's called isometric. I can also rotate myself around to get an isometric view. There we go. So now I'll go ahead with sketch 3 highlighted, click Extrude Boss Base. Now it wants to go up. It remembers the distance you last extruded, which was 12. That is not what I need. So I've already gone up 12. I need to go 34 total, so my difference there is 22. So I need this to go up another 22 millimeters and accept it. Now you'll notice as I use Control and the scroll wheel and bring this over, when I snip this one, it will be 2 extrudes, the part, and again, my properties and summary right here. So you can even go to the snipping tool right here, click New. It goes gray again. This time I'm going to kind of find where the bottom corner is going to be and make sure I get the whole part, all the information, and the file tree that shows the 2 extrudes. Again, edit copy, over to my sheet, second box, paste. Scrolling down, extrude, extrude, cut method. So that's what's coming up next. So as I come back here, close that, I am actually going to go and open Extrude 2, click on Sketch 2, and push delete. Oh, it doesn't want to let me do that. I'm going to delete this one. Now it is going to delete some things that are based on it, which is going to save me a little time, and then I should be able to delete Sketch 2. Now I'm actually not going to delete Sketch 2 because I'm going to use this again, because the same way I made this, I would start my extrude, extrude, cut method. So I'm going to actually go right into extruding, and I know the whole thing needs to be 34 millimeters tall. There we go. Now I have this overall cube. The thing I need to do now is I need to cut a portion of it away. So I'm going to click on the top, start a sketch there, spacebar, top view, spacebar, top view again, should rotate you. Anyways, We've got the origin on this side. So identify where the origin is. And on the side opposite the origin, I'm going to draw a box. Again, it's going to overlap on 3 sides. I'm going to dimension only one side of the box because that's all I need at 22 millimeters. Now, before I exit the sketch, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my view orientation menu to get me that isometric view that I like. So you'll notice I've boxed in 22 millimeters wide of an area that I want to now cut away. So I'm going to go ahead and exit my sketch. And with sketch 4 highlighted on features, instead of extrude, because all of this whole section creates material, the next section, all you can see cut is added to every feature. This section removes material. So I'm going to click extrude cut. Now it's automatically going to try to cut through, and the last thing I did extrude wise was 34 millimeters. Now I don't want to cut all the way through. I want to cut down so only 12 millimeters is left. I've done the math before, and I'm going to do 22 millimeters like that. That would do exactly what I want to do. However, I want to show you a better way. What I want to be left with is a 12 millimeter piece. And if I ever wanted to change it, I could come back and change it in one spot. So right now it says direction and it says blind, and you'll notice there's a drop down box. There's a lot of different options under here. I'll go through the ones in future videos that we're going to use. In this case, I want you to use the one called offset from surface. So what that means is the pink box, it wants me to actually click a surface, and I'm going to click the bottom of the cube. And now, because it still held my 22 millimeter mark, it's telling me that it's extruding until it hits the spot where it's 22 millimeters up from that surface. If I do it this way, I want to set it to 12 millimeters because, again, now I have that exact thickness. If I ever needed to change this part and make this 10 and this 10, I now have a much easier time by just coming back and changing it to 12 millimeters, not redoing the math. I know the math isn't terribly difficult in this case, but this is a better way to do it. Because also, if I want to keep this 12 millimeters, but I decide to make this taller, it still stays 12 millimeters. I don't have to make 2 changes. So I'm going to accept this. And again, now I'm ready to set this up snip-wise. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. Control, move it over, File, Properties, Summary, leave that right where it is. Back to the snipping tool, new snip again. You do notice that my new snips replace the old ones. That's why it's important to have the document out and be pasting them as you're doing it. So this one shows that you did an extrude and then a cut. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not worried about the numbers. Copy it over to my document and paste it in right here. If this was your actual one and not my sample, you would now go back to the Schoology page and hit submit to turn in this document that has all 3 pictures already turned in.